The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hello everybody, it's Mark Kelly here, Chief Customer Officer and co-founder at Alldus. I hope you're doing really well today. Today, part of our Alldus ServiceNow series, I'm very happy to welcome that we've got Laszlo Balla. Laszlo is a ServiceNow Solution Architect working at DXC. Laszlo, I'm very happy to welcome you onto the show today.
Thanks, Mark. I'm very happy to be here.
So before we get into your role at DXC and what a ServiceNow Solution Architect does day to day, tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you got into the world of ServiceNow and what were some of the main drivers for your professional growth?
Sure. So I've started my career in IT back in 2006. Was like many others, I was working in some support roles initially, and then I transitioned gradually over to the service management area where I was working with some international customers and working on some processes for them with different tools back in the days. And then I had the opportunity over time to work for a relatively small company that was looking for a replacement tool for their service desk solution. And ServiceNow was an obvious choice. That was 2016-17. And my role, I wasn't really an expert in ServiceNow. I was working with different tools, but my role was really to introduce the tool, make sure it's going to be a fit for the organization, and set up all the support structures, et cetera. And as I got more and more involved in the project, I got to know the tool better. I started to enjoy this a little bit and then push the boundaries of the tool. And then, I think I very quickly decided that this is something I want to continue learning and doing full time eventually. So, I had all these questions about the platform. Can we do this? Can we do that? And had such a great community out there. So I just started to learn and became an administrator and a developer, and then over time an architect and doing more and more things with ServiceNow. That was 5 years ago, and I'm still learning something new every day. So it's really cool.
I love your curiosity about how it kind of took you down a few rabbit holes and then you built up your experience in administration, development, and that gave you the confidence towards architecture. Tell us a little bit about your role at DXC and what does a ServiceNow Solution Architect do day to day? Tell us about some of the work you do.
Yeah, sure. So typically an architect works with different customers here at DXC, and what we try initially to do is not to tell our development team how to do things in ServiceNow, because we got really skilled resources who know what to do, but we really try to be the voice of the customer internally and focus on the customer outcomes and what's the value we deliver to the business. So we don't just look at how we resolve a particular challenge in ServiceNow in the platform, but is that the best way for the customer? Is it the best way for the long term? Because many times these projects, they just end in a few months and people move on to the next project. But we need to make sure we leave the customer with something that's sustainable, scalable, future-proof, and really generates value for their organization. So typically we look at their IT strategy also besides ServiceNow and how what we build is going to fit into that, how it's going to fit into their wider roadmap with the platform. And across their organization, and then just really generate organizational curiosity to want to use the platform and leverage the platform in many other areas, which, I mean, at the end of the day, is also good for DXC and any other partner because it's a win-win, So that's what we try to do. We really try to maximize the value for our customers and do the deliveries in the best possible way.
Yeah, because motivation, people are so excited at the start, but if it's not part of the roadmap, and it's not part of that kind of higher purpose, it's going to get easily siloed and people will move on, and your internal champions will become, demotivated, and other things, will come to the core, and the cheese is always moving. So having that real value at the center means that people will continue to come back on that and work with it. And then being that voice for, working with those developers, and sometimes just helping that customer understand what they really need rather than what they want at that time. Because I think if you think about all the projects that have been left on the dump heap from wouldn't it be cool snare projects, and senior management lose interest then, and morale can drop, and significant investment can be put into it. From a more of a keeping up to speed with all the different changes in service now, and we know it's evolving very, very quickly. How do you stay up to date with service now and all the different things that are happening at any one time?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely challenging for everyone, including customers, partners, and probably even ServiceNow employees, with all this growth trajectory. So obviously, many of us try to specialize in certain areas and not even attempt to claim we know the entire platform. So we've got people specializing in CSM and ITSM and HR, and these are different niches that people can become an expert in. And it's much easier to stay up to date if you focus on a few products and just be the expert there. But obviously, one of the things is personally for me is the Delta exams that come out twice a year. I really like to use that as an opportunity to learn new things. I know many people unfortunately see this as something to just get over with. It's a must, and we have to maintain a certification. But I think this is a fantastic opportunity. These are open book exams, just a few questions. So what I typically do if I'm not sure about a question, you can just look it up, and I would encourage people to look it up. That's what I do many times. I look it up. I finish a Delta exam and I end up with 10 different browser tabs open, which I'm gonna read afterwards when you have time, and then you have those aha moments, and you can build those in. I think it's very important these days that we don't stick to our previously learned experience with ServiceNow and the ways of working. It doesn't mean you should always use the latest things. Of course, it always depends on where your customer is at their journey with ServiceNow, what's in their platform, but it's very important that you time after time you question your own knowledge and you keep improving. Otherwise, you'll just be left behind.
I like that approach because, there's so many different answers out there. Everything is evolving, and your approach, you should always challenge it because, could it become more efficient? Is a different way to do that. And I think the Delta exams are a fantastic opportunity for people just to put down tools, check out what's happening, challenge themselves, and then see if they can bring new skills to the fore. This kind of brings me on to ServiceNow's investment. So we know the ambitious growth plans they have to get people into the ecosystem, and to do that, citizen development is going to be very, very important, and that democratization aspect of it, where more people are going to be brought in, more value add is going to be had. People are going to be becoming just more hands-on, and they're going to be able to do that because of the no code, low code as well. Tell us a little bit about some of the thoughts and benefits of this approach that ServiceNow are pursuing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. That's a great area, and obviously this is still very much in progress and is still under development. We can see the past couple of years, there's more and more solutions coming out that are targeting not the professional developers, but sometimes these so-called citizen developers. So maybe started with Flow Designer. We've got App Engine Studio now. UI Builder is also improving. It's being more accessible for a wider audience. And I see that many customers, especially bigger organizations, have a challenge with, okay, we've delivered a certain project and we have to we have to keep it alive somehow. Our employees or customers are going to come with feature requests, or they find issues we didn't find before, and we have to develop these things and we have to roll it out. But sometimes our processes are very robust, and it can take a month to roll out even the simplest of change to the platform. And users these days don't really appreciate a lack of agility. And therefore, citizen development offers basically a different way here, which is a concept that's new to many organizations. But essentially, the idea is you can have your solution entirely scoped. You can have your delegated administrators being responsible for a process or an entire application, and they can basically be trained. They can receive the basic ServiceNow trainings, and many times they can do these very simple modifications. They can add new catalog items, for instance, or change your existing catalog items, and they can package it up and submit. And you can set up these pipelines in App Engine Studio, and you can have your system administrators or product managers review these updates and approve them. And through the pipeline, it can move up to the UAT instance. Your employees can test it, and it can be eventually deployed to production without disturbing the rest of the platform. And this is how you can free up capacity in your traditional IT organization, and you don't have to use professional developer resources to do every single thing for you and manage a huge backlog. So, as I said, this is still a new concept in my opinion. It's being embraced by more and more organizations and partners. I think this is going to be a trend, because otherwise you're not able to staff your entire organization.
And when we look at some additional trends, the increased importance of user experience and consumerization of corporate IT processes. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, very much related to the previous point. So these days we've got pretty much everyone has a supercomputer in their pocket, and they use different applications, to get a cab or order food or something, and it's a very frictionless experience. It's a great user experience, but when you come to work, you many times still have to deal with these not exactly user-friendly tools or processes, and it's many times just a lack of care or lack of interest. It wasn't traditionally an important thing to create good user experiences at the workplace for whatever reason. But with a new generation of employees and new demand gets generated, I think employees start to demand this more and more at the workplace as well. You want to enable people to do a good job and enjoy their job, not just be there for 8 hours a day, but actually enjoy what they're doing, remove all the friction, and create an engaging user interface and user experience for them. And eventually, as a result of that, they become more efficient at their job as well. So it's a win-win. I appreciate this is now also a trend that more and more organizations put a focus on, even have sometimes dedicated people and dedicated departments for this. So this is close to my heart, and I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see how close it is to your heart. And tell us about the role of ServiceNow as a platform in today's modern enterprise.
Yeah. So for most organizations, it typically starts with having a challenge they want to resolve. For example, we need like in my example, it was we needed a replacement tool for a service desk. I think that was the traditional entry point for many companies in ServiceNow. This is now shifting a little bit more towards we needed customer service solution, for instance, or we need something for our HR department, and then those departments start using ServiceNow, and then other areas discover ServiceNow and the possibilities, like, oh, how easy it is to build workflows. And eventually, IT leaders would really have to keep it in their mind that we've got this fantastic flexible platform. We can connect pretty much all our systems to it, and we can just orchestrate workflows across the enterprise and bring down the walls and bring down the barriers between different business units to generate a more efficient enterprise and more efficient organization, which at the end benefit everyone and can very easily increase your return on investment on the platform.
I agree, Laszlo. When we look at our final question, it was posed from a previous guest to you. Laszlo, do you see your role in the next 5 to 10 years still being there, or how do you think it would evolve as technology becomes more of an enabler, more automation, variety of different processes? Where do you see that playing out?
Yeah, 5 to 10 years, not even that long, I guess. And as long as I keep up with my Delta, it should be fine. But other than that, I think as an architect, I believe we're definitely going to have a role in the next 5 to 10 years. What we do exactly might change. It might be more on really looking at the big picture and orchestrating communication between different tools and different platforms across an organization, and maybe doing less hands-on. And as I mentioned, I think there's definitely going to be more citizen development. So the traditional roles of a developer and administrator may change, but I'd like to think that an architect would still have a job in 5 to 10 years, as it's going to be still important to consult on how best to use the different features of the platform and how best to fit it into the rest of your organization.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what part can be automated and what part will still continue to evolve, and what that will look like between being that voice and that kind of medium between organization and the customer. And our final question, it's for you to ask our next guest. What would you like to ask?
Oh, wow. Yeah. One question I'd ask maybe is, thinking about the future again, would you see a use case for utilizing blockchain technology on the ServiceNow platform? And if so, what would that look like?
I love that question. So I may take that question and ask that for the future and come back to you on that. That's good. But our next guest, we will post that as well. You've been listening to the Alldus podcast as part of our ServiceNow series. I've had the pleasure of speaking to Laszlo Balla. Laszlo is a ServiceNow Solution Architect at DXC, and he's telling us a little bit about his journey into ServiceNow, the importance of staying up to speed with what's happening in the market and how you actually put that into practice, creating real value for customers and being that medium and voice between the customers and the developers within the company, and how to make sure that that is sustained over a long period of time. We talked a little bit about citizen development and how we can kind of get more people into the ecosystem and more value add. And then finally, we talked a little bit about the future and where we see the role may evolve of a solution architect as well. Laszlo, thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Mark. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.